We are looking at, I believe it's page 10 in your social studies binder, the notes on geography. And I just want to take a quick look at the seven continents and oceans. Now, these are just the shapes of our seven continents. The oceans aren't on here, obviously. But as you can see up in the top right, we do have five oceans: the Atlantic, which is closest to us, Pacific, which is the largest, we have our Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean, which is at the very top of the North Pole, and then our Southern Ocean, which is, like it says, in the south. As far as the continents go, remember, these are just the shapes, they are not the size. We're looking at these just for the shapes so that you can identify them on a world map. So let's take a look at the first one, and I want you to label these with me. So the first one we have here is North America. You could just label it with that capital N period. America, to make sure we capitalize these. These are names of the continents. And one of the things you can look for when we see North America is right there, that peninsula, that little pinky of Florida. I think it is already labeled on your copy, but that's a good way to find North America. Come over here, looks like an ice cream cone to me. You don't have to draw that. But that right there is South America. So please label that with me. Remember, you can pause this video at any time to make sure that you can write this in. Over here, it almost looks like if this was like the ear of a camel, and you have an eye, if this was its mouth and it's smiling or it's looking down. To me, it looks like a camel, which we would find on this continent. Oops, try to erase that. That is Africa. Some students say it looks like a rhinoceros head as well, looking down. But let's go ahead and label that as Africa. All right. Now over here, you have a line that I do not, so I'm going to draw it in. This is Europe. Capital E, U, rope, Europe. It looks like right here on the end, we have Spain. It looks like, I call that the sore thumb of Spain. It looks like a big thumb that got hit by a hammer, so there's a little bump to it. Down here, it looks like a little boot. That's Miss Italy's boot. We'll talk about that later in the year. But those are some ways you can recognize Europe. Now remember that both Europe and the next one we're going to talk about right here in the middle is Asia. The land is technically connected, but there's a mountain range that is used as a natural border. We'll look at that on the map in class. And one of the things that you can find here, which is usually pretty obvious, it's not so much on this picture, but right here, it looks like a V or a very sharp pointed country in Asia. That's India. That'll be important when we're trying to find the Indian Ocean because it's pointing right at the Indian Ocean. Okay. Down here to the bottom right, we have a cute little continent that is also an island that is also its own country. And we go, oh, isn't it cute? It's all Australia. Some kids think it looks like a cute little puppy dog or a puppy dog head. So you can see that if you can. And then beside it, this is the one that I showed you. It looks very, very different. We're going to write Antarctica, but I'm going to start with Ant for a minute. It looks very different on a map because it's all stretched out. But if we look at the bottom of our globe, it actually is a rounder looking continent. It's not long and skinny like it looks on a map. To the very bottom, you can think ants. They like to, you're going to find them on the floor. They like to crawl on the floor. So ant, which actually means opposite, but we have Antarctica. Some students tell me it looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's white because it's snow and ice, and it has a little tail like Casper the Ghost. So there are your seven continents. Let's look on our world map, which is the next page, and we're going to find these together. Now, I'm going to use some colors. If your colors are not sharp enough to write, then please use a pencil and circle or underline them with a color. I'm going to use green for land. I'm going to use blue for water for right now. So if you will go ahead and get your green, let's take a look at those five continents again. And we're going to abbreviate these since they're already written out on the page before, and we also just wrote most of the full names out anyway. So let's start with ours. We've got North America. Just put capital NA there. Remember, one of the little tricks is to find Florida's pinky right there. And remember that we are located right about here where it bumps out. That's where Virginia is. Okay, so if we have North America, think, okay, well, if that's North America, then below it we would have South America. You can just abbreviate that with capital SA. Okay, now let's go right to the middle of our map. Right in the middle of most maps, you will see Africa. We're going to write that name out because we have several that start with an A. Remember, you can pause this at any time to keep up. I know this might sound like it's going fast if you're not pausing it, so please do pause it. Then up top here, we actually want to draw, we have two continents that are technically one large landmass, but we're going to, not the exact line, but we're going to just draw a dotted line there. And we're going to put an EUR for Europe there on the left. And of course, we have Asia over here on the right. It is the largest continent with the smallest name. Then if you remember, all by itself, we have Australia. There's no line for this one. We're just going to write capital AUST, period, for Australia down there. And then, of course, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our seventh one is at the bottom. It's hard to see the real shape. This is one we looked at. And make sure that you're writing this on the right line. There's several lines down here. This is the one that's within the land. And of course, this land doesn't look green, but we can abbreviate Antarctica. And remember, ants, if we see ants in our house, hopefully we don't, but if we do, we'll see them usually on the ground. And they're going to be on land. They're not going to be in the water. Okay. Okay, so speaking of water, let's go to water. Get a blue colored pencil or crayon. I always like to start with what we say is the vast ocean, which is our ocean. So if we go over next to North America, we have our Atlantic Ocean here. And we did not label these on another map, so we are going to write these down. ATLANTIC, Atlantic Ocean. And then we have the largest ocean, which is hard to picture on this. We've talked about it in class, but you'll see it labeled in two places. Sometimes right over here on the right, because it is over there next to Asia, but it's also over here. I'm going to write it in, not on a line. There is no line for this. If you see where this is actually Hawaii right here, I'm going to erase that for now because you don't need to mark that. But let's go ahead and write Pacific in twice, right over there near Hawaii. That's on our west coast. So we are bordered by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and also North America is bordered by the Arctic Ocean at the very top. Arctic. Okay. Another one that's easy to remember is the very bottom. It's going to be the Southern Ocean. Now again, make sure you're on the right line here. Looks where the dotted line goes around the South Pole here. So right above where we wrote ant for Antarctica, we're going to write Southern. It's the word south because it's in the south with an ERN. And that leaves us with one. I told you that if we could find the arrow of India there, it looks like it is pointing right at the Indian Ocean. Okay. So there you have our 7 continents and our 5 oceans. And for right now, that is all that you need to label. So please make sure you have that. You can play the blind find game like we do in class if somebody can call out these different oceans and continents to you. But you make sure you study these because on the next quiz, you'll need to know the USA map, which is on page 9, but also you'll need to be able to find all 7 continents and all 5 oceans. Okay, so study these and also use your geography sword to help you.